have two areas that are absolute pillars for a community to be able to thrive. You have government, and legislation on one side, and you have innovation and private investment on the other side, right? These two need each other, they support each other, but they do not move at the same speed.
Not at all.
Right? So here you talked about a project, right? That requires both of these entities, both of these communities, both of these systems to work together to get something delivered to the people.
Right.
Right? Tell us a little bit more about that kind of work, because government traditionally, this is not a dig, traditionally they move at a different pace than startups. Right. And startups move at a different pace than corporations, large
different
corporations.
Guardrails too.
Different guardrails. So how do you bring all that together to get a project to be, first of all, listened to, approved, project managed, and then completed?
Yeah. Most recently, some of the things that we deal with are called public-private partnerships, where you get the government involved, and you get a little bit from the government side, and you get a little bit from the investment side of the private sector. Family offices tend to be of great assistance in those areas. But by doing that, you can blend the best of both worlds. And you got to get out there, be a part of the community, be in front of your city commissioners, be in front of your mayors, be in front of the people that run the airport, the boards of directors, be involved, make statements that you might be a little bit, scared to do, but you got to get out there. You got to be a part of that community. And sometimes it's risk-taking. It's very uncomfortable sometimes. But being out there, you get recognized as being a part of that community. You take risks together, you try and you fail together. Dr. David Metcalf has been a wonderful mentor to me at the College of UCF Metal Lab, and he always tries to reinforce in his I-Corps students or people in the Metal Lab, College of Engineering, to fail fast, fail forward, go after it, regardless of what the stakes are. Dr. Max Hooper, I just kid with Max that he's got more doctorates than I've got grandchildren. And so he's got five. He's got five doctorates. So man, that's amazing to me. But they are always very encouraging on the private side to work with that public sector and collaborate to get investment dollars together and to make things happen.
Yeah, and that's a lot easier said than done.
Absolutely.
A lot easier said than done. And it requires, again, something that you're good at that I admire is that investment in the relationships, right? That investment in how to connect with the individual so that they can see what you see. Because we've been in meetings where you've been exposed to a particular opportunity, right? And immediately your brain starts going, and next thing you know, you have 15 different ideas that most of us, we maybe saw two, right? But then you have to convey those,
right?
And then see if they stick, and then see how to promote them. Tell me a little bit more about that. How do you go about that? Because that cannot be easy.
One of the things that I learned while I was doing my research at UCF, at the UCF I-Corps program, is you get involved with other entrepreneurs of what their dreams are. You talk to them, you do customer discovery, you ask questions. And by working with people in Europe, it's a different culture. By working with people in South America, it's a different culture. I know kind of China's a bad word, but when you work with people from Asia, it's a different culture. You ask questions, and they ask questions of you. Sometimes I'm working with people from Brazil. One of the first things that the interpreters will say is, slow down. You talk too fast.
Yep.
We have a new company that just came to us this past week from Europe. Had a little bit of a detour, ended up in Jacksonville because of a tornado on the same day we were doing a rocket launch. You want to be able to embrace those cultures because there are brilliant people everywhere in the world. But you got to ask questions. You got to be able to, go across that cultural divide and embrace the differences. because people are really, really brilliant everywhere.
Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of that here. So let's talk about some of the projects that you're working on right now, some of the things that you can share, because I know you work on things that, are closed doors and there's NDAs and things like that. But, what are some of the things that you're working on right now that excite you from an entrepreneurial point of view?
I've got two of them right here. One of them I'm working on is a special project with Tesla and Kennedy Space Center, and it's called Tesla Space Jam. We are bringing out the Florida owners of Teslas out to Kennedy Space Center to embody what it's like to work in outer space, to be sustainable, to work with some of the people that might live in outer space and visit Earth in Vision 2055. What's it like to have a space economy? So as we work with Blue Origin, as we work with Kennedy Space Center, NASA, some of those people that work with SpaceX, Tesla, these are some outside the box thinkers. Work with Delaware North, the people that run Kennedy Space Center. Those are some special projects that we're working on right here in our space economy. Also, tomorrow, I'm gonna be going down to South Florida. I'm gonna be working with some of the people that are working on transportation in the transportation space from Israel. We are embracing the Israeli technologies that are coming in with companies like Mobility Insight. They established a company here in the United States from Tel Aviv. They have a North American arm now. And also they were embraced here at our MS2 lab about 2 years ago for the Intelligent Mobility Center. And now I work with them directly to bridge that continental divide. Brilliant people that created Waze that sold to Google 20 years ago. And everybody in Israel has been in the military, men and women, which is something that's very different, in other cultures. So I've had to learn that as well. But I'm gonna get a chance to be the moderator down in South Florida for the Florida Israeli Tech Conference for Transportation tomorrow. So there are two specific things that I'm gonna be doing within the next month.
So let's talk about these for a moment and zoom in a little bit on them, because let's just say that, these things don't just land in your lap, right? Let's just take the NASA Tesla project, right?
Right.
These are things that, you just don't bump into them just by existing. These are things that you've had to nurture,
Period of time.
people.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that journey, because at the end of the day, what I want, people who are listening, people who are here, we need more than ever people like you that can connect dots that are disconnected for whatever reason. And as technology, one of the beautiful things about technology is that it continues to advance whether we like it or not. A detriment of that is that you end up very quickly, if you're not paying attention, you end up missing out on how some of these things could work together. Because, all we have is 24 hours a day, and technology can be sometimes overwhelming for a lot of us.
Right.
But you somehow have found a way to zoom out enough to see things like this connect. You think Tesla, yes, of course, Tesla is owned by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk, of course, is SpaceX. But Tesla owners coming to Kennedy Space Center to doing, that's not a natural connection of things. So imagine that you have a young entrepreneur, and this person is inspired by some of the things that you are doing, like these types of events. What will you tell them? You're like, how do you go from looking at these similar things and then bringing them together, whether it's an event or a company or a relationship or a partnership, that is gonna end up doing something good for the community or the society around?
First off, it takes investment, personal investment. Example would be Tesla. I went out and bought a Model S, and I was personal investment between me and my wife and Tesla. We purchased that. Human capital, sweat equity, putting the time in with things. Those are the things that you need to do as an entrepreneur. Those are the things you need to do as a human being if you want to grow yourself as an entrepreneur. You need investment, human capital, sweat equity, time in the market. You got to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to put yourself out there and take the risk. Nothing venture, nothing gain.
When did this particular one is so interesting because, you sent this to me, I think it was a week ago or so. And how did that unfold? How did you put those two together?
Actually, there's a team of us with the Tesla owners group here in Florida. That came about with Nick Howell, who's the president, Carson Gallo, who's the vice president. And through the years working with people, literally for about 7 years that I've been working with Tesla, as an owner mainly, you try things. You buy the vehicle, you see what it's like to utilize the charging infrastructure, you invest in your vehicle, your insurances, when things don't go right, you repair things. But at the same time, you develop relationships, the things that are sustainable, that are better for the environment, that are safer. You can put your family in a vehicle and know that the safety of that vehicle is safe and secure. And by doing it over a period of time, you show a trend and you can see the results. My Teslas right now, I do very few repairs. I got a Tesla that's got 212,000 miles on it. One brake job ever. Lifetime. Supercharging. Because it was a 2015, we called it EVOS, Electric Vehicle Outsourcing System, and we can collect the data on those things. What the College of Engineering found out is that I could actually connect the brains of that vehicle to a software that I can white label and execute drives and get money from Uber and Lyft, and it's a self-sustaining system. I figured that out 8 years ago, and the next thing you know, I'm working with the College of Engineering, building a business off of that. But then you get into other things, like the Florida-Israeli partnership that you develop over a period of time with your community by being out there, being connected, working with people, asking questions, customer discovery over a period of time, and doing what you say you're going to do, day in and day out, even when it sucks. You do it.
And it does sometimes.
Sometimes.
What are you looking forward to see? What are some of the things? I mean, these are present things, We've talked about your past, talking about the present. What do you look forward to see in the world of smart city developments and
I can honestly say right now one of the best emerging technologies that most people are talking about right now is artificial intelligence, AI. Artificial general intelligence, the humanoid robot. Those are things that I'm looking forward to, giving quality of life back to people. How do you invest your time so that you can spend quality time with the people that you love? Allow these AI or humanoid robots to do the work for you. Work smarter, not harder. I talked earlier about back when I was getting my master's degree, we had to work on a 5-year business plan. That's out the door now with AI. I mean, we're talking about things that pivot quarterly now, sometimes monthly, hourly, because how effective AI has made us. You can build these algorithms off very concentrated data, very specific, and data's like the new oil, and it can help you to work more efficiently so that you can do the things you're very interested in with the people that you love. AI, humanoid robots, robotics, that all blends together in this future city type of stuff that we're working with here in emerging technologies.
Well, Glenn, we're getting close to our time, but I want to kind of bring everything together for you because, again, I admire you. I admire the work that you do. I admire the person that you are. It is very seldom that you get to meet someone who touches so many things and so many people on any given day. And that has also to do with not only, who you are, but your beliefs. You're a man of faith.
Yes, sir.
You've gone through some tough times. You lost, your father recently.
Yes, sir.
Right? What is that aspect of you, and how does it relate to what you do every day?
I can honestly say that I try to surround myself with a bunch of faith-based individuals. Christianity is what I call my higher power, my God, Jesus Christ, but also Bible study with men's groups, surrounding myself with like-minded people constantly. Also, there's a saying in the Bible that iron sharpens iron, and you have to live that way. And sometimes it's iron sharpens iron, sometimes it's a forging, where you stick that piece of metal in a hot fire and you beat the crap out of it until you can't take no more, but you come out stronger in the end because you've been through that refining. You've been through the forging. You've been through the ironing sharpens iron. And by surrounding myself with like-minded people, you live in a community that supports one another. the good times and the bad.
So let's talk about that for a moment, because we had this conversation, I think it was earlier or a few days ago. Lake Nona, the place that we call home here in greater Orlando area, it's an up and coming community. A lot of stuff here is new, and there's a lot of stuff that is still being developed, right? It's not like other places that have been around for decades and decades, that have an identity.
Like a Winter Park or a College Park type thing.
Right, Winter Park is a beautiful place, but it's been there for quite some time. And one of the things that I do in this podcast, and for those people who are watching, is I try to challenge people. I try to challenge people because communities need to be built by the people who live in them.
Yes, sir.
Right? You mentioned Tavistock. Of course, Tavistock has built everything,
Beautiful infrastructure.
Beautiful infrastructure, but the infrastructure alone doesn't get anything done without the people.
Absolutely.
And I tell people, get involved. I tell people, show up. I tell people, find ways to connect, right? Find ways to get your ideas out there. Find ways to volunteer. All the different things that you know very well. Tell us a little bit more about that aspect of your life, because for you, community is very important.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
I can give you a primary example. Right down the road, we have the UCF hospital. Right outside the emergency room, there's a sign, and that sign says, "We show up." We show up for our patients. We show up for the people that come through these doors. You got to be there. 90% of the battle is showing up for people. I also say that God will work it out in the end, but you got to show up. Example, last night, we fed the homeless in downtown Orlando at the Christian Community Center, but you got to show up. Those people are in need. They want a friend. They want to be served. And we are the people to do that. And we are the hands and feet of Jesus Christ in that situation. I literally went down to the New York Bread Company that makes the bread for Trader Joe's and Wawa. I walked in there and said, "Hey, what do you got to be able to serve these people tonight?" And they loaded me up, man. People are givers. All you got to do is ask. You got to show up.
Well, that's a great way to wrap everything up, Glenn. What do you want to leave? This podcast is called 3 Thoughts On.
Yes, sir.
Right? So I always ask people, give me your 3 thoughts on how to learn some of the lessons and how to get a bit more bullish with, we live in tough times right now.
Yeah.
We live in difficult times, and we need to step up our game in order to be able to do better, right? You're talking about doing good, talking about getting involved, talking about asking. 3 thoughts to leave the audience with.
First off, and I want to divert this back to Mr. Juan Santos. The other day we were sitting on the couch here in the MS2 lab, and one thing you got to do is you got to listen. You got to listen to people. They will tell you what they want in their community, in their business. Commissioner Gray's here. He does a lot of listening at these meetings with the mayor and all of the individuals that come into these things. You got to listen. That's the first thing. You got to do. You got to do good. Number 2, you got to do it. Do what you say you're going to do. And then number 3, act with integrity. Act with a way that people will trust you for a long period of time and be consistent with it. Act with integrity.
Well, if that is a wonderful way to wrap this up. If you want to learn more about Glenn, go to glencookjr.com.
Yes, sir.
Glen Cook, entrepreneur, husband, father, grandfather.
Yes, sir.
And just an outstanding human being. Thank you for making time for me and for this audience.
Thank you guys very much.